Thank you so much, and welcome back from the extended tea break. But let's just come back to social protection, which has been a crying need, especially in the last 2 years, because we were hit by COVID. We have seen so many people walking down back to their villages, trudging 1,000 kilometers on their feet, and having no source of income, no source of food. We have a very large class of population in our country which is very vulnerable. And the social protection is essentially for this vulnerable set of people. But it's very challenging to find out what exactly constitutes social protection, who should this social protection be given to, how should it be given. And we also have this famous statement from Rajeev Gandhi that for every 1 rupee being given for social protection, only 17 paisa reaches the ground. Obviously, much has changed since that statement was issued, but we got a wonderful set of experts, people who have lived, breathed, eaten, dreamed of only social protection and governance systems and nothing else for a decade plus. So we are very grateful that they have taken out the time to have this conversation today. Thank you so much. I'll start with Shri Rajeev Chawla, sir. How do you define social protection? Why is it critical for a welfare state? And what are the challenges?
Having worked for 35 years, it was clear that the systems were not working. Of course, they continue not to work. Citizens' life was a hell. And of course, it continues to be a hell in most of the states, including Karnataka. Whatever I am going to speak is with reference to Karnataka. That every time citizen needs to apply for a service, the citizen even doesn't know what to apply, where to apply, from where to get the data to apply, and it's a hell. You go and try getting a caste certificate. It's next to impossible. And then you apply every time, because everybody wants the original. So in the previous panel, we heard the problem of passport, integration, etc. So everybody wants printout. Everybody wants original printout. They don't even want a photocopy. And then, of course, the drudgery of the government employees, it is so difficult for them to read each document. The scanned document, physically given document, unscrupulous elements managing the affair. PM Kisan has 1 lakh crore, Sanjay, and I don't know officially, obviously I have no capability to say that, but huge money, and I will intentionally not number that, must be getting into wrong people because unscrupulous people are managing to get that money. Now, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why should citizens apply? Why should data be given? Why should government employees go through these papers? Can't we do services proactively? And if you know in COVID, who are the drivers in Karnataka? The taxi drivers. Can't you give them the money yourself? Why do you need them to apply? It's a very, very important question. Why do you need them to apply? Are you saying they're not interested in the money, and if you give them, they will come back and say, oh, why the hell you have given me the money? Not at all. I would be very happy if you give me the money. Then don't you know who are the people who are cab drivers? Have you not given them a license in transport department? Have they not purchased a vehicle? Why do you need their bank account? Aadhaar as financial address is there for donkey's years now. So why can't you use Aadhaar as a financial address itself? And why is Aadhaar not there? Of course you have Aadhaar. You have Aadhaar almost in every database, and things like PDS, 80% of the records have Aadhaar, validated. Aadhaar can be taken as a financial address. Now, therefore, can I have such proactive services to be given? Can I ensure that I would not seek any data from you? And I must tell you that this social protection system, I mean, if you ask me what is a social protection system, I'm very clear in my mind. I will not know complicated definitions which Amit would tell. But my idea would be, why should citizen apply? Give him what is to be given to him. You want to give a scholarship here. You want to give a scholarship to farmers' children. Jaijit in Karnataka, the chief minister declared that he'll give scholarship to the children of the farmers. Somebody did some mathematical calculations and said there are 19 lakh people. So the CM declared we'll give to 19 lakh people. When people, they obviously, I mean, people like us are not heard, obviously. So, I mean, we knew who are those people. I'll come to that. But they said, no, they will apply. So after 15 days, about 10, 12,000 people had applied. Now, CM, obviously, 19 lakh is where and 10,000 is where. So don't you have a database of land record owners? Don't you know their children? Don't you know in which class they are studying? Don't you know their Aadhaar number? So therefore, you can virtually pay to them without asking them. So therefore, what did government do? They said, we will use this Kutumba framework. We know the farmer's family because we have what is called fruits database, which has 75 lakh farmers. We also know their children because fruits is connected to Kutumba. We know those children where they are studying because Kutumba is connected to the education database. We also know their Aadhaar number and therefore they paid. Now, is this not possible? Now, in my view, this is what social protection is all about. Now, if you also know the previous chief minister wanted to pay in COVID-1, the farmers who have grown maize, I don't know why only maize, the crop survey data could tell you who are the farmers who have grown maize. And then you have their extent also known. You have their bank account, Aadhaar address also known. You make a payment. So this is what Jaijit, in simple layman's language, the social protection is what is understood by me like this.
Sure. I think that gives a great insight and sets the basis for today's conversation. I think one of the things you mentioned, sir, was how did the government do the budgeting? And they started by looking at 19 lakhs. So moving to Amod, one of the bases for Aadhaar was to enable identification of people and therefore to enable budgeting. How challenging is it to do budgeting? And in fact, the other point that Mr. Rajeev Chawla was talking about was connecting multiple databases, for which the civil society seems to be up in arms. That how can you connect databases and have a 360-degree view of the citizens? You're violating the privacy. Don't give them money, but don't violate their privacy. They might as well, die in penury, but don't violate the privacy. So what are these challenges in terms of budgeting, in terms of being able to access people? What is Aadhaar's position, and how do we resolve these issues as we move forward?
So first thing is that budgeting, as we know in the government, generally is a very regular and routine kind of an exercise, that if previous year's budget was X, then 1.1X is the next year's budget. It's only that when you are launching a new scheme and in which you are creating a new social protection, then a discussion comes, then the challenges of how much budget you should have. And I'll not go into that debate, but there is always like 2-3 questions always there, and many in this room will also be thinking along those lines when we always talk of social protection, subsidies and benefits. So here I am distinguishing between services and subsidies. So one very eternal question is justice versus charity. Do we want to do charity or we want to do justice? And many people, when the schemes are discussed in front of the chief minister, they say you should better empower your citizens rather than giving them these doles, these social protections. And many in this audience will also be feeling why we should give these charity and we should empower citizens, give them education, give them health. So I'm not going into that debate, but that discussion does come into picture. But the quick answer to that is whenever this is being discussed in front, so normally, although the budget is voted in the assembly, but most of the discussion and everything happens before the chief minister and the finance minister. And at that time, I think it is very important to do justice, but till you achieve the justice, जो dialogue था तारीख पे तारीख और किसी की ज़मीन किसी ने कब्जा कर ली, किसी का कुछ कर लिया, तो I think that will take much longer period and maybe 2-3 generations will go by that time, I think. So you need social protection and you need immediate quick fix, like अभी आपके कोई चोट लग जाती है, कोई आपको ज्ञान दे कि योगा करो ठीक हो जाएगा, आपको तो तुरंत दवा चाहिए. तो I think social protection is the immediate cure which you need for citizens, for the poor citizens who need 2 meals a day. So I think that is one challenge which anyway in a democracy, I think politicians understand much better than educated class. Many times I have to explain a lot to my friends that social protection is needed because they will say, no, we have to have equal playing field and all that. Anyway, so that's question number 1. The other debate which often comes कि अगर आप पैसा दे दोगे तो लोग निकम्मे हो जाएंगे. Now, one issue. Second, पैसा दे दोगे तो वो लोग दारू पिएंगे, जुआ खेलेंगे, prostitution होगा. तो आपको कभी ये social protection नहीं करना चाहिए. And I think many of us would agree to that. But many times our gut feeling is not correct. I think I also had this gut feeling till I looked at the evidence. And there have been many research studies conducted in developing countries, in third world countries, which bring out that no such thing happens statistically. Like, there may be a few examples, maybe 10% or 20% will waste the money on liquor or they will become idle, they will not work. But majority will put it to good use. But as he said that if our efficiency is 17% in the government or was 17% in the government, and in this way you are losing just 15-20%, it is still better to do social protection. So those are the things. Now we come to the question. So these are the challenges of budgeting which I just outlined. Now I come to the question how you deliver them efficiently. That's your second part. And I think there we always run into this debate जिसको मैं कहता हूँ सहरुआ और गांव वाली डिबेट. So for richer class, privacy is more important than transparency. But for a poor person, transparency is more important than privacy. आप एक गांव में किसी आदमी से जाके पूछिए, किसी अर्बन स्लम में जाके पूछिए, and our 80% population, maybe more than 80% lives in either in urban slums or in rural areas. And for them, privacy is not an issue at all. But I wouldn't say that we should keep the privacy aside. Now, maybe 10 years, 20 years back, this was a debate. But now we have tools by which we can protect the privacy and while protecting the privacy, still deliver the services efficiently. So if we have those kind of tools, and I think Karnataka is one example, and so I think that is possible, and Aadhaar is one enabler. Not only Aadhaar, I think this is the whole JAM trinity. Jandan account, Aadhaar and mobile number. With this trinity, you can protect the privacy and still deliver the services. And now coming to the extreme question, I asked this question to a politician, I posed it to him. कि साहब लोगों को डर लगता है कि अगर आपका आधार नंबर से सारी चीज़ें लिंक हो जाएंगी, कोई धरने पे बैठा है किसी नेता के खिलाफ, तो आप उसके सारा सर्विसेज का डेटा निकाल लोगे कि उसको ये बेनिफिट्स मिलते हैं और फिर उसको सारे बेनिफिट्स बंद कर दोगे, तो इसलिए लोग डरेंगे. The reply was, politician was very interesting. उन्होंने कहा आप कितना फायदा देते हो आधार के थ्रू बेनिफिट्स एंड सब्सिडीज का, एक महीने में 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 देते होगे एक सिटीजन को. उससे ज्यादा तो हम उसको इस बात से डरा लेंगे कि थानेदार उसके घर जाकर के उस पर इतनी धाराएं लगा देगा. तो क्या आपको स्टेट को आज की डेट में किसी सिटीजन को सताने के लिए क्या उसके आधार नंबर और बेनिफिट्स और सब्सिडीज की जरूरत है? स्टेट के पास तो ऑलरेडी बड़े बड़े टूल्स मौजूद हैं. तो आप किसी का कत्ल कर सकते हो और आप डर रहे हो कि नहीं उसे तो खरोंच आ जाएगी. So that is the mindset which prevails, and I think that is the way we must look. I'm not saying that don't protect the privacy, but don't protect the privacy, don't throw the baby with the bathtub. If you have to deliver benefits, protection of privacy should not be at the cost of delivering benefits. The basic task is we should try to ensure that every citizen is protected, they feel secure in this country, and we must take care that it is delivered to them, and while at the same time ensuring the privacy, and it can be ensured. I think we can discuss it further.
I think very well put in. By the way, my PhD thesis was on privacy, and I'd come out with a term called privacy extremist, who would take the term privacy and make an extreme position on it. And I think that's what you're trying to communicate. Privacy is important, but not as an extremist. That brings me to you, Sanjay. What are the tools that are available and technologies available for large-scale social protection delivery, keeping in mind the issues that Amod just talked about?
Thank you, Jaijit. Clearly, I think, over the last many years, technology has been evolving. But I think more recently, we have come across now to a point where we can reach every citizen. So clearly, for example, Aadhaar provides an identity to every citizen. We have given them bank accounts. We have, mobile telephony is taken off, where again, most people are, at least at the family level, have access to a smartphone or a feature phone. More smartphones at a family level and an individual level is a feature phone. And we are now getting to a point where we can reach everybody. On the other side, we have the ability to use these methods to deliver services to them. Like DBT is essentially a cash transfer mechanism. And I actually wanted to point out, structurally, a cash transfer mechanism is better than delivering the service, though some civil society folks argue the other way around. I don't know how many of you noticed that the day the gas became a DBT, where you got the money and you paid the gas cylinder, your cylinder delivery was next day versus 20 days later. Because what happens is, because now you are paying, it is in that person's interest to make sure that you get the delivery as soon as possible so they get paid. Previously, if it was all a back-end transaction, at the front end there was no such mechanism. The other issue was that because cylinders, now there's this weird pricing going on, they could divert cylinders at a different price. But because now the market price of the cylinders was fixed to be the higher one, there was no diversion. So that allowed more cylinders to be there so that the delivery also became faster. So I think changing the structure changes things. And I think, DBT is where, हाथ ऊपर होता है बंदे का या हाथ नीचे होता है. तो राशन लेने जा रहा है हाथ नीचे है versus पैसे दे रहा है ऊपर है. That makes a difference. And I think that we are now at a point where by giving cash to people, we give them the ability to have a choice. They can go buy from different places. They can get the services they want. They can go where they're treated better. So all of this, I think, is a structural thing, not a technology thing. The technology is saying that now I have the ability to get cash into their bank accounts. I have the ability for them to access their bank account and take out the cash or spend it digitally. This is what technology has done, is that it's enabled that. In terms of social protection, I think the ability to create these sort of databases or registers of people with validated data, which gets validated over the course of transactions, gets improved over time, I think allows us a faster identification of beneficiaries, so that then we can, in COVID times, decide that we're going to give out a scheme, and within 2 weeks you're able to put together a list and then actually have money into their bank accounts. And then we have people who will sort of, call out their mobile numbers, tell them the money has reached their bank account so they can go to the local BC and get it. So all of this is what technology does, is it connected the government to the people much better. So this is sort of plumbing. Second, we just talked about privacy. Aadhaar, of course, was in the news for a lot of reasons, but we actually believe Aadhaar is fairly privacy preserving even as it started, because it allowed what was called a one-way linkage, where the UIDAI didn't know everything about the citizen, but every place where the citizen had an interaction had access to an Aadhaar number, so they could improve their services based on the Aadhaar number without the linkage that happens. The state government, of course, because they do provide a 360-degree view, do have more linkages, but as a central government department, you don't have that. Then, in addition to that, we've now, provided virtual IDs, and we made a lot more changes on the Aadhaar side to improve privacy. But then coming back to technology itself, we now have better ways to protect large databases. Somebody asked today morning a question of, I think you asked the question, about can we actually do this in a privacy preserving manner? Yes, today we have the ability to create what's called a confidential clean room, where the code goes to the data and data doesn't go to the other entity. So you have technologies coming up which now start to allow for all of these things to be done in a way that preserves customer consent or resident privacy, at the same time enabling easier delivery of services. So I think though the bigger changes in some senses actually have been at the plumbing level, reach, bank accounts, etc. And then the next level is at a tech level, which will enable the next set of services to come up in ways that protect all these attributes.
Great. I think that's very heartening to know that those developments are happening. Amit, coming to you, you have been at the cutting edge of social protection delivery. So coming back to the first statement that I talked about, which was Rajiv Gandhi's statements of 1 rupee versus 17 paisa getting delivered, how do you ensure that that doesn't happen? And even when that 17 paisa gets delivered, it gets delivered to the wrong person. And then we also have the issue where a lot of people just don't get that benefit, although they're eligible for it. How do you manage these kinds of situations using technology?
So thank you. And this brings to the core of EasyGov, what we have developed. So like you have a CIBIL score, right? So a person applies for a bank loan, but bank decide to whom the loan should be given, right? And at what interest rate. That is decided by the CIBIL score. Similarly, for social protection, there has to be a need score. What is a need score? For a family, when we define social protection, we say health, housing, education, food. Social protection purpose is to provide these four support. Now, what is my health need score? What is my education need score as a family? Housing need score? And actually, a family will have a different need score for different requirement. If you put this all need score combined, then you have a family need score for social protection. Now you have a money, and you want to deploy that money to the people based on the need score. And I say that, okay, the higher needy people will get more support, and the lesser needy people will get less support, and how this money will be divided among health, housing, education, and food. So this is the way we try to route the welfare money basis the need, not basis the welfare schemes they are eligible for. The schemes just become a mean to do that, right? Because there are 400, 500 welfare schemes. Every time, right, a government will come, they will announce a new welfare scheme without stopping a welfare scheme. In fact, one thing that is very close to my heart, and I keep on saying that it's very easy to start a new welfare scheme. It's extremely difficult to stop it because it is not politically good. So every government will come into the power, will start a new welfare scheme. But they will never stop the welfare scheme of the other government. Obviously, the budget allocation will happen, budget will get reduced, something will happen. And by doing this, we have created a cluster of more than 500 schemes. And whereas the people need remain only 4, health, housing, education, and food. Let's say that there is no rule, there is no eligibility rule, there is no data rule, nothing. I know a family, I tell them that you tell me about yourself, right? House. So for whatever analysis says that there are around 250 parameters covering all the aspects of social protection. So if I have and don't get scared, you don't need 250 data points for each and every family. Depending upon the profile of a family, on an average you need 100 to 110 data points. If you get those 110 data points, you can tell what is the need. Now let's say you didn't verify any data, right? And you want to give the benefit suo motu. And then you say that I am giving this money, but what I am doing, I am putting a cap based on correcting the population. So what I am trying to say here is, let's say that a girl of a farmer who is doing farming on a 2 acre on this type of a land will get on an average this benefit. If anyone getting a more than that, it's an outlier. Don't need to verify that. Right? So this is the way you can use technology powered by artificial intelligence, reducing the workload from the government, and better targeting of the beneficiary. And I think after that, Sanjay is here, Amod is here, right? Everything else post DBT, I say post beneficiary selection problem is already solved by DBT. Right? So only thing that you have to do, identify the right beneficiary. The difficult part has been already done.
I think very, very interesting. I believe your solution was also adopted by the Karnataka government. So coming back to you, sir, Mr. Rajeev Chawla, what are the learnings from the Karnataka experience where you had implemented a bunch of systems over a large period of time to actually reach a level where you can quickly tell the government that 19 lakhs eligible beneficiaries for a certain scheme and so on and so forth. So what are the learnings that the other states and the central government can have from the experiences that you went through, and how did you do the procurement of from a single source of EasyGov for one part of your solution?
One of the important learning was that these type of social protection systems just require perseverance. These are not technical stuff. They are possible to do. They are, you're just connecting databases. You may have legal problems, you may have administrative problems, but there's no technology problem in that. So it's quite an easy job. And then why was it not happening? What did we learn in Karnataka? I learned in Karnataka that, and pardon me for saying this, I think we need to have more will to do these things. I don't know what is the purpose of governance. Are we really wanting to help citizens? And if yes, do you really think it is difficult? These are the most low-hanging fruits. What are you saying? You have some 20, 30 databases. All you have to do is to connect them. Forget about the privacy part. I'm talking from a technology point of view. It's so simple to connect. So simple to connect. You will have to have some sanity measures, some checking, verification. That's understandable. The departments will do dadagiri. They will not give their databases. So everybody is a king. So they don't want to share databases. Government of India anyway will never share. So you have unnecessarily, first of all, Government of India is not a owner of any data. You make a website, ask me to do data entry, and tomorrow declare this is my data. Amazing fellows. But this is the way systems work, so they will not give you the data. Once you give the data, then you create these databases. Of course, some political will, some jugaad, some administrative will. Somehow or the other, you manage to create this database. The second problem starts. Why should I use it? You want to take my freedom and you say that you will... अरे वो पुरानी पिक्चर में वो छोटे छोटे बच्चे को मारता है, वो कौन सी पिक्चर थी कि तू अगर आज के दिन बच्चा मरेगा तो सीधा स्वर्ग जाएगा. वो बच्चा इतनी जोर जोर से रोता है, कहता है यार तू मर जा, तू चला जा स्वर्ग, मैं तो यहीं नर्क में खुश हूँ. राइट? वो थी ना एक पिक्चर जिसमें वो बच्चे को मारता था रात में, राणा की, आशुतोष राणा. वो बच्चे को मारता था, वो बच्चा इतनी जोर जोर से रोता था और वो संजय उस बच्चे को बोलता रहता था, अरे बेटा ये आज का दिन है, ऊपर से चंद्रमा आ रहा है, नीचे से ये आ रहा है. वो बच्चा रो रहा है. So now when Rajeev Chawla goes and tell like Ashutosh Rana to these people कि भाई benefits will come, citizens will gain, your World Bank ranking will be one. Who is interested in it? Who is interested? So every time we tell them, they have reasons why not to do. And I'll talk about, we did something called Suvidha where we could deliver services. I will not take time because it's all limited, but I'm saying there's no will for you to improve. Sanjay was telling me that you should have incentive structures, right? In one of the Vidhan Saudas it is written, government job, what is it? God's job. Government job is God's job. God's work. God's work. Government work is God's work. And therefore God should do. Naturally. Everybody has to do his respective work. You do. Now, if this is the case, if every department says, Sanjay, I'm not interested. I will take manual applications because citizens don't know how to apply electronically. You say you have citizen service center, the bloody Grama one, Bangalore one. Even then, citizens are very comfortable manually. I mean, this is the logic. So therefore, the second problem is, the first problem is from where do you get the data, how do you have administrative and political will to get the data, fair enough. The second is, I am not interested in using your IT application. So we said that per scheme you will have to pay some 2-3 lakh rupees. They said, we don't have budget. I said, theek hai, from e-governance we will pay. Then they said, we are not interested. So the learnings are that people are not interested. I really don't know, Sanjay will have to teach me. I have been very unlucky. I keep on saying I have not been able to work with people like them. I wish I had got some opportunity to work with these tech people. I will be very, I mean, I know that there would be solutions. Maybe I am not aware. I have not learned many things we don't know how to do. But how do we motivate these people, these departments? We tell them that, look, boss, give the ID, the Kutumba ID, I give you validated data, right? And once you will even calculate the need score of each of the person. You don't have a budget, we will calculate the need score. We'll tell you the top people. You want to have discretion also. I'll give you the need score. Even then you choose lower one. And then Aadhaar number is there, it will be transferred. You don't need to talk to citizens. But I must tell you that to say the least in a very, very moderated language, it's very discouraging. So the lessons are not very good, Jaijit. I mean, I can of course talk positive things, but why should I talk positive things? The good thing is that the perseverance pays. It is possible to do. It is possible to do. Databases can be created, but I think more important is policies, that we need to use them. You need to have a political will or administrative will. I mean, administrative will can make up for political will, but political wills are very, very strong. So if they all understand, of course. They all understand. Now, there was one gentleman who told me, Rajeev, तुम ऐसा करोगे तो पहले तो सिर्फ 4 लाख लोग अप्लाई करते थे और तुम्हारे डेटाबेस से तो 12 लाख लोगों का नाम निकल आएगा, तो 8 लाख लोग अप्लाई नहीं करते थे, तो भाई नहीं करते थे तो उन्हें क्यों देना है पैसा? I mean, it's a very important question. They say 12 lakh people are eligible. You want to give scholarship to 12, there are 12 lakh people, but when they are not applying, why do you want to give to them? I have really no answer to this question. Who are these 8 lakh people? So when you calculate their need score, they are the most vulnerable people. Scheduled caste people, handicapped people. They don't even know how to apply. So who is applying? Those who are learned are applying. So the real vulnerable are not applying because you don't even tell them how to apply. And when they don't apply and you say, I will do proactively, then you say number of people are increasing. Then I say, theek hai, apply need score. Then the next answer comes. Do you think government, after knowing that there are 12 lakh people, can you only give to 4 lakh people? I mean, you chit bhi meri, pat bhi meri, kuch bhi bolo uska answer hai. So therefore, don't run the query. Don't run the query, because if you run the query, I'm not joking, I can't name, I am a retired fellow. So why should I, unnecessarily trouble people? But the answer I was given by somebody was, अगर मैंने उसे बोला, मैंने कहा बॉस 12 लाख लोगों का नाम है, क्योंकि ये 12 लाख लोग हैं और इनको सबको देना है. कहते पहले तो 4 लाख लोग आते थे, मैंने कहा उन्हें पता नहीं था, तो तू क्यों 12 लाख लोगों का नाम निकालेगा? मैंने कहा यार पैसा कहाँ से लाओगे? तो मैंने कहा यार एक काम करते हैं, तुम इन 12 लाख लोगों में से जिनका नीड स्कोर ज़्यादा है उनको दे दो. ऐसा होता है क्या? 12 लाख एलिजिबल है तो 12 लाख को देना नहीं है क्या? तो एक काम करो, थोड़ा पैसा कम कर दो. जो 4 लाख का है 1/3 कर दो, 12 लाख. ये भी पॉसिबल है क्या कि पहले 5,000 देते थे अब 1,500 दो? तो इसलिए सबसे अच्छा है कि कुटुंबा डेटाबेस को उठा के डिस्ट्रॉय कर दो. No, this is the way. I mean, I have no answer to this question. So Sanjay will have to teach me what is this incentive mechanism we'll have to put in place. Maybe I don't understand. I don't really understand. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is the best way. You kill the project itself. Why should you know? तुम्हें ब्लड टेस्ट कराओ ही मत यार तुम. कोविड टेस्ट, ब्लड टेस्ट भी ना कराओ. हेमोग्लोबिन कम है, ज्यादा है, पता ही कहाँ चलता है. I mean, this is not the way. Come on, is this the way to work? Is this the way to work? I mean, I really feel pity for myself that this is the administrative structure you have, that you don't want to be transparent. You don't want to help who are needy. You have tools. And of course, thanks to the Aadhaar layer, you have a unique number. You can, and instantly who is bothered about, we are not troubling anybody. We are not finding out where they are going. We are only saying, here is a person, a son of a farmer, who is studying class 10th. I'll give you the money. Right? But then there are sets of people. So you have answers to each question. You can't reduce the money. You can't give it to more needy people. And therefore, let people apply. And I know people will not apply, and that's the way I want to work. Let people not apply. Let them be not aware. I'll perhaps answer the later question, how we chose them.
Sure.
Just can I add one?
Please, yes.
So, sir, my experience has been that across the entire system, there are a lot of people with administrative people like you, people who want to do things. And I've been fortunate to be able to work with them so that then they can make the change. That's sort of, I think, the thing. I don't have to work with everybody. I just have to work with people who want to make change. So I guess I've been fortunate in that sense to find those right set of people. But if you're trying to sort of say, I want to make change X, then you have to deal with whoever that person is managing X and whether they have the will or not. I think we come from different points of view. So my experience has been that there are a lot of people out there who want to make a change, who have the administrative will and the ability to do it. Just they lack the tech part of it, and which is where we can come in and help. But if you take the problem the other way around, then that becomes a different game completely, right? So I think, so for me to say it's very easy, just, you talk to 10 people, 2 are interested, तो 2 के साथ काम कर लो. So that way, and जितना change वहाँ होता है हो जाएगा, and systems live on, they will move to other positions, they will do other things there, उधर उनके साथ और काम कर लो, then धीरे धीरे बढ़ता रहेगा. That's one way to think about.
And the other way to think is, somehow the other, I don't know how, but we should bring political will. We should bring administrative will. What Sanjay says is, if there are 2 good people, we'll work with those 2 good people. Fine, we'll work with those 2 people. But I think there should be some way of motivating those who are in power to understand that these things are important. Maybe they are not aware. So there are enough people at senior level, policy makers, thinkers, people like Sanjay, others, who should tell those people who are actually in a decision-making power. Maybe they are not even aware. I mean, the one who said, I don't want to do that Suvidha thing, are at a very lower level. So they can be easily overpowered. But the problem is that we need to have a campaign to tell those who are actually at a much higher level that, look, this is good for the nation.
So I have an observation and not really a question. And from C-DEP, we had coined a term called political return on investment. So, and this I'm directing back to Shri Rajeev Chawla, is that in a democracy, if you're not able to reach out to people, if you're not able to benefit them, if you're not able to protect them, then in a democracy you should not be getting the votes. So just an observation, you may or may not choose to respond, sir, but shouldn't that be motivation enough for the political class to have the political will to support such kind of a system? So I guess if you would like to choose to remark.
I think maybe people like us have failed to kind of tell the real political class what needs to be done and what value it will bring. So our articulation, our way of reaching out to them must not have been very good, I am sure. But then you are correct that at least there should be some people. So if you remember, the Aadhaar was embraced by respective governments. It was just way of reaching people. I think we'll have to reach out to those people who really matter.
True, true. I think there's a lot to learn from experience, sir. Amod, taking that conversation forward, I think one of the key developments that happened in Karnataka was to create Kutum, which is a family system. But I guess Aadhaar doesn't have a concept of family, right? And it's also challenging to have that concept of family. So how do you create these units? Because many of the schemes are dependent on the concept of family, but then the concept of family also changes from scheme to scheme. How do you balance this and how do you really deliver value? Because you can't be giving benefits to every single individual. You can't give a benefit to a 5-year-old. You have to give it to the family. So how do you balance all of these and still provide social protection?
Jaijit, I do not have first-hand experience of doing it in any state. I think Chawla sir would be more suitable for answering this question because at least he has Karnataka experience where he has gone in a family way instead of an individual taking that individual route. But I think every state is enough because we have a federal structure and I think states are finding their own ways and some of the states are doing individual oriented also. But a family is a fluid concept and it keeps changing with time and I think there should be and as far as from our point of view, from Aadhaar point of view are concerned, I think we will like to leave it to the state government's decision and discretion to decide which model they would like to take. They would like to take Karnataka model, Haryana model, Rajasthan model, Maharashtra model. So there are different models on the basis of which they can deliver these benefits and I think sir can add to that. But the other thing which on the previous question, I think one thing which comes to my mind is UBI, that's Universal Basic Income, because if we are not able to get enough political will for individual schemes and all these things, UBI seems to be an alternative where the politician gains a lot of coverage and money reaches directly to the accounts, not connected with any scheme. So you already have Aadhaar numbers, you already have financial address, you just pump the money, it goes. So and then the politician does get a recognition. It can be followed by phone calls to those people कि हमारे तेजस्वी मुख्यमंत्री जी ने या जो भी है आपके लिए इतने रुपए भेजे हैं आपके सुख दुख में मदद करने के लिए and all that which leads to votes for them. The other thing which sir has given a very realistic scenario and realistic most of the time turns to be pessimistic. But, you know, for GovTech startups, I see an opportunity there that, you know, in income tax, they created an institution where assistants, like private guys who assist you for filing income tax. So something like institution of official middlemen. So that is one institution which some state governments can take a lead in creating for state government services and benefits and subsidies. So if you have to access some state government services, benefits and subsidies, there are official middlemen who can help you with that, who can generate the demand and who have that incentive to drive the demand from people who cannot approach the government, people are not aware. For example, sir gave the example of 8 lakhs people who are the most needy for a scholarship, not applying for a scholarship. But if we have some kind of an official structure where for every scholarship delivered through someone, that some middleman will get paid 1% of the scholarship, maybe the demand will increase and it will be creating jobs also in rural areas. And that's an opportunity for GovTech entities. So I think that model can also be thought of. But sir, as far as the family question is concerned, sir can answer better.
So this is a very important question, Jaijit, as to how do you create families on the fly? Because it's a concept. Now, for example, in PM Kisan, they say husband, wife, and unmarried children. Now, some scheme may say husband, wife, and minor children. There are definitions. The database should be able to create these families on the fly. And how does it create? Obviously, it's not difficult to do. All I have to do is to capture relationship with each other. For example, Rajeev Chawla. Who is his father? Who is his mother? Who is his mother-in-law? So if I do all this, which of course is not very easy to do, because you'll require time to collect all this data. You'll have to talk to him. Then you can do on a fly. It's not very difficult. After all, we know there are about 32 type of relations, Sanjay, which are there in PDS, you know. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, son-in-law, this, that. They are listed. So in a way, you will have to capture these 32 relations, right? And then, of course, on the fly, you say, I want mother-in-laws. For whatever funny reason. Who is living with him? That can be the second question also, right? If you don't want living, then it's a job is much easier, because then living part is little dynamic in nature. So to answer the question, therefore, Jaijit, tough question, because your definitions are different. But most of the time, you know, these are high-hanging fruits. Low-hanging are whatever definition of family you take, you start working something. But then, of course, this is also possible. The only thing is you need to get more data in respect of every person of a family. And what is a family? Whatever family you want to create, you create. Because for me, I will not bug you by saying, why the hell you have this family? He says, my mother-in-law also wants to live with me. She is living with me. I'll say, no, she is not your blood relative. No. Let her be considered as a family. But for the purpose of scheme, she is not a family. For example, my father, mother, I and my children are living together. Now you will say, how you can live together? PM Kisan says only unmarried children. Arey bhaiya, my father wants to live with me. PM Kisan does not allow your father to live with you. No, I will create dynamically two families out of that data, provided I have enough data. And therefore, the concept of legal construct of a family should not really bug you with the way you want to register your family. So the Kutumba says you register your family in whatever way you want to register. We will cull out the definition. We will cull out the family as per the definition of the scheme.
Thank you so much. I think that seems to be a very logical solution where the family definition is created on the run. Taking it forward, Sanjay, Mr. Amitabh Khan started talking about data-driven, evidence-driven discussions and policy making. So when we are delivering social protection, how do we on the real-time measure what's the outcome of that social protection? And more importantly, we should probably move to a regime of livelihood protection from a regime of social protection. So how do we make this transition from social protection to livelihood protection? And how do we figure out what is the outcome that has happened? What's the impact that has happened of all these interventions?
So actually, I think we started this concept of defining what social protection is, and generally you think of it as a safety net for everyone, so that people who are unable to get to basic necessities are able to now afford them and move on in life. But then the second part of it is empowering them to do more, which is about giving them education, skilling, ability to generate. Like we sometimes think of entrepreneurship as generating jobs, right? So that then you can employ more people. We also have a need to migrate. There are many people in India who are dependent on farming, and you need to migrate some of them to other kinds of jobs and livelihood. So as a society, we want to move in a certain direction. And how do we, pull people in that? So I think, most of social protection is actually about that safety net. But now we are, I think, at a stage in our journey as a country where we are now starting to say, okay, we've reached this far, we've been able to, we started in a terrible place, we are not in a great place, but we are in a much better place. Now perhaps it's time for us to take a look at where we want to go and what we want to be and how we want to make those changes. And that's sort of where I think we see a lot of these job-related conversations going, because that's really what it is about. And to do that, I think there are ways by which we can create schemes to support that. I think there are schemes around training, certification, etc. More recently, we are now getting into technology related to how do you create credentials which can go with you from place to place. How do you work at some place, get, the fact that I've worked as a welder, I may not have a certificate, but that should still allow me to get to the next job. I should be able to build a resume saying I've done these kinds of things. So all of that is now starting to come together to build a technology infrastructure which will help people build out skills, actual work experiences, and then enable them to go to the next one. So that is one category of work that's happening. And the one I think is around job creation, around protecting small businesses. And I actually think of what's happening in commerce, the whole idea that a big aggregator shouldn't take away all our entire middlemen, the entire infrastructure we have. And I actually, a lot of VCs think about a winner takes all, but I think about it in a different way. We've got 1 billion people, a lot of people are farmers, so you get food that's grown there, it's primary production, and it goes through various stages till it gets to a place and then it gets distributed again. So you have a large ecosystem involved in taking that primary produce and getting it to the final form, and that we can't disintermediate. But what we can do is start to formalize that, bring in more skills and jobs so we can do a better job of it, reduce wastage, bring in efficiencies, etc. And all of those can be measured. And that's really where I think a lot of, and the more digitization we have, I think the more we will find people saying, why don't we build a business helping people digitize, doing better at it, measuring the efficiencies, etc. So I think it is a motivational thing. So where we want to say is that we are no longer worried about just people at the bottom of the pyramid, but trying to set a direction for us. And I think that's a wonderful way to think about it.
Great. Sounds good. So coming to you, Amit, you've heard all the inputs that have come in from the panel and various asks that are there from social protection. How does a platform like EasyGov provide that, and what are your challenges when you provide such solution, and how do you manage things like error of inclusion, exclusion, the family issue that Mr. Rajeev Chawla talked about? How does all of that get managed in a platform like EasyGov?
So too many questions. Let me try answer some of them. So one thing, right? I completely agree. For the family definition, I think because relationships are dynamic, that's why family is dynamic, right? Everyday relationships are made and broken, and that's the reason families are also made and broken every day. So what you have to first realize that family is not a static concept. Point number one. Point number two, you can only capture relationship, not families. And second thing is, third thing is relationship is dynamic. So keep on changing the relationship. For example, if there is a death, right, you find out that how many relationships are there, remove it, and only capture primary relationship. Like mother-in-law is a secondary relationship. The primary relationships are husband, wife, and children. Rest, everything can drive from these three relationships because everything else is secondary relationship. So if you use analytics, right, that's the way I will like to answer to the family thing. Now, coming to the error of inclusion or how the social protection should be, though I think I try to define social protection after reading a lot of definitions everywhere, that to provide minimum level of health, housing, education and food support to the communities who are marginalized because of religion, caste, income, gender, physical disability or geography. I've tried to define social protection, right? And there are two important words. First one is a minimum. Why minimum is important? Because it's not a good sign that if countries is spending 18 lakh crore, that is 40% of their money on social protection. That's not a good sign for a country, right? We have some example in our neighboring country where the country goes overboard with the social protection. What happens to those countries? Because you don't put the money where the economy needs to be grown and things like that, and then you start getting into the wrong direction economically. And that's why the minimum word is important, because minimum tells that there has to be a pinch. there has to be pain in getting social protection. It's very apolitical statement, right? Anti-political statement. But I strongly believe there has to be a pinch. People should try to earn social protection through livelihood. And that's why the intervention should be designed more towards the livelihood than social protection. So for example, if there is a family, there is a person who is could be earning member, I will definitely promote minimum level of social protection and support him into the livelihood activities so that the person come out of social protection net. How do EasyGov does that? So I talked about the need score concept a few minutes back. So you start tracking the need score of a family basis the money that you are spending on that family. And you track it on a kind of a long journey. So you say that, okay, on a food I have spent last year this much money on a family, and in last 3 years this much money has been spent. Is their food need is going up or down? Is their housing need is going up and or down? So if we do a time analysis of a need score, this is the money that is we are giving, we know which family we have to reward by providing better resources for livelihood, or which family we have to kind of, I will not say punish, but you have to limit, right? So, and then don't get me wrong, right? There are families who will not have any possibility to get into livelihood. For example, let's say there is an old parent living and their children are not living them and their grandchildren are there. They need lifelong social protection. So we have to move away from a scheme-centric social protection, to family-centric social protection, and we have to make it progressive. Progressive for that family, progressive for the country and the economy.
Great, thank you so much. And I think we have completely run out of time, but I'll have one last question from Mr. Rajeev Chawla. You had promised that you will tell us how you did the procurement in Karnataka. So that's one question. And along with it, the other question is that do you need a separate institutional structure for social protection, or the existing departments and ministries are good enough to provide the social protection? So 2 quick questions, sir.
Now, as far as social protection is concerned, Kutumba is only a tool. Now, social protection, we were not enough lucky to redesign the schemes, etc. Schemes continued to be the same. So it was in a way a MIS tool. Now, where can this MIS tool be housed is a matter of detail. It was tooled in e-governance organization there. You can perhaps, I mean, they are technologically a little more better than other organizations, and therefore, and it's a neutral organization. It doesn't deliver any services on its own. So therefore, Kutumba is not a social protection system. It is a social registry. It's only a registry. It's only a MIS tool. How did we procure the thing? Now, we of course knew that this EasyGov was doing a good work, that they had tools for, discovery of eligibility, discovery of schemes and benefits. Now, the only challenge was how do you take them? Now, thankfully, Karnataka's procurement rules are very, very good. So you have a clause there, Jaijit, which says that if you have a unique solution, you can purchase that unique solution. Now the question was, how do you know it is unique? So again, the law defines how to decide whether it is unique. And once you decide it is unique, because it is unique, there is no question of tendering. You then sit with the vendor and decide the price. Of course, a difficult thing to do, but then law is very clear. So we had an expert organization which sat together, spoke to them, interviewed them, saw other models, and gave us a report that this is a unique proposal, unique tool, unique, which is not there in the market. And then, of course, we sat with them and negotiated. So the only thing was, what was in our favors was, was the fact that we had the institutional, the legal mechanism, which allowed us to hire a service provider which has a unique solution.
Thank you so much. I think this has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you for the stunning insights, Mr. Chawla, that you shared with us, which only a government bureaucrat can share from the decades of experience that you bring in. I think it was absolutely fantastic having the insights from all of you. And thanks for taking out the time. Thank you so much. Thanks to the panelists.